A former NFL scout mentions why opposing teams should fear the Chicago Bears' new offensive weapons. We're going to talk a little bit about that, plus ESPN predicting how the Chicago Bears can win the NFC North, and the Bears wide receiver corps slightly getting a lot more notice and recognition for what they could be. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. So a former NFL scout, Bucky Brooks, believes that people are missing something special when it comes down to the Chicago Bears and what makes them so frightening or should make them so frightening to other teams. They say this: Chicago's beefed up its pass catchers and pass protectors to ensure it can go toe-to-toe with any offensive heavyweight in the league. The team drafted a pair of mismatch creators in tight end Colston Loveland and wide receiver Luther Burden, who would keep opposing defensive coordinators up all night crafting game plans to neutralize the catch and run concepts that will be featured prominently on Ben Johnson's call sheet. Now, if you guys are new here, we have talked a lot about the Chicago Bears and what the offense could potentially look like under Ben Johnson, right? We've talked a lot about that. And the offense comes down to not only just Ben Johnson's concepts, but having the players that can operate within those concepts well. And that's one of the things that the Bears have done extremely well over the course of the season, is going out there and getting players that fit the way that Ben Johnson likes to play football. Now, the playbook itself, of course, Ben Johnson is going to build around the talent that he has here, but having specific talent that goes to the way that he likes to do things, that's just what it comes down to and what you need there. So when you look at one thing with the Chicago Bears, right, and what they point out in this article that is a really good get is that yards after the catch is one of the most important stats in football, right? It's one of the ones that people don't talk about enough, but it is one of that. And teams that really get those yards after the catch tend to be teams that are very successful. 6 teams that ranked in the top 10 most yards after the catch last season made the playoffs. 2 others had winning records. So when the Bears, when you look at them, we were right in the middle of the pack of yards after the catch. When you look at Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, they have the potential to do that, especially Luther Burden coming in that slot receiver and to be that. And Olamide Zaccheaus as well. But when you have somebody like Colston Loveland and the route running ability that he has, because make no mistake about it, I've said it before, and I know some people disagree because I think the concept of route running, some people look at it as if you have a successful catch, it means that you ran a successful route, and those are very different things, right? But Colston Loveland is almost instantly going to be one of the Chicago Bears' best route runners. Like, that's how good he is at running routes. He's better than a lot of wide receivers in the way that he executes routes, and Luther Burden in that slot executes it well also. And so when you have guys, right, those are 2 things that you're really going to have, the ability to get those yards after the catch. And that's something that really comes down to when you look at it as well. Ben Johnson's scheme, when we talk about how creative it is, right, and we talk about how Ben Johnson just tries to find the thing that he's focused on most is finding ways to get the hands in the ball in the hands of his playmakers. And that's something that Ben Johnson is really good at, is getting his guys open so you can get the ball in the hands and then letting them go to work. And that's where these 2 guys can thrive. And not to say that, let me be clear, it's not to say that DJ Moore can't do that too. It's not to say that Rome Odunze can't do that too. That's part of what makes this a really dangerous tandem when it looks like also, like, you look at DJ Moore, he's really good at yards after the catch as well. And so you're adding now better possession receivers and possession guys for a team that's built around getting the ball in the hands of those guys. And that's where things can really start thriving at. PFF as well, when you talk about them ranking the Chicago Bears wide receiver corps as one of the best in the league. We talked about that a little bit before. That's a really good thing when it comes down to it. Also, like, the Bears have a lot of talent as far as if you can just get the ball in the hands of these guys, they have the talent to be able to go out there and perform. PFF ranked the Chicago Bears wide receiver corps 9th in the league in the top 10, right? And our wide receiver core last year finished 27th in the league. So of course, this is before any games happen or anything like that. But that just goes to show how kind of the mindset of around what the Bears have to work with has really changed around the league. And so it's up to them to prove it. But I think when you look at the additions that we've made, the coaching staff that we have, the better offensive line, it really, to me, does also put a spotlight that Caleb doesn't have nearly as many excuses for his inability to attack the middle of the field. He has to attack the middle of the field better. And that's something that, as much as we could talk about the offensive line and how much it hurt Caleb Williams last year, also is him holding on to the ball too long, like the Bears have done a really good job at eliminating a lot of that for Caleb Williams. So now you're going to look at it, if Caleb Williams is holding on to the ball too long, it's really just going to be on him. If he's taking a huge number of sacks, unless something happens, it's a high probability it's on him this year. Caleb Williams, when you improve your weapons, when you improve your offensive line, what that does is that puts your quarterback in a position where there are really not that many excuses to no excuses, really. Play calling has improved. Protection has improved. Weapons has improved. Scheme has improved. Like, when you're talking about everything. Now, one thing that we have not done is the running back room, right? The running back room hasn't seen the upgrades on paper that you would like to see. But again, with making the upgrades that you have to the offensive line, you hope that that's all going to come together and be at least better for the Chicago Bears. So, listen, I'm glad to hear that the Bears are getting more and more recognition. I'm glad to hear that, people are seeing what this team could be. I said that in yesterday's episode. There's been so many dumbass articles, to be frank, over the last week or two of the Bears just doing stupid stuff because it's like people want the Bears to do something stupid so then they can say, hey, look, the Bears are doing something stupid again. That is just really good to see that the Bears have a position now where people are starting to realize, hey, there's a ton of potential here. But what do I always say? For those that watch this program regularly, my go-to phrase is always, potential's not always realized. And that's just the reality of the game. The potential, you could have potential to be great. You could have potential to be whatever. But if you don't have the right mentality, if you don't have the right coaching, if you don't have the way the pieces fit together right, all the potential in the world don't mean jack shit. So you got to have the Bears that execute on that potential this year. And offense is going to be like, I trust with Dennis Allen, the defense, and what they looked like when they were healthy at times last year. And not to say like we're going to actually talk a little bit about it. We're going to start going position group by position group leading into training camp and how the confidence level of that position group. And we're going to start off with the defensive line because there's so much talk around the Bears in that D line. But when you look at the thing of this team that Bears fans have not really had in the history of our team, we've never had a truly dominant offense. We've had offenses that were like, hey, they don't make mistakes, or offenses that were like, hey, they're not getting in the defensive ways, or offense like, hey, they're good enough. But we've never really had an offense, at least, not in my feeling, that we've looked at and truly have ever felt like it's great, right? And that's what you hope that you can get to with the weapons that we have, with Ben Johnson being here, Declan Doyle, Eric Bieniemy, the creative offensive minds that we have here that could draw up plays. You hope that you can finally get to that place of really being a team that can say that we can have a dominant offense, because that's what we've been missing over the history of our team. Now, not to say that even if our offense is dominant, if the defense is not doing their job, we're going to be right back where we've been, just a mismatched team. But this really does feel like the Bears could be working on something. But like I've told you guys many times before, I ain't crowning shit because I ain't seen it yet. So we got to get to the place of being able to see it. If we can't see it with our eyes, if we're not feeling that, then it doesn't matter, right? And so a big part of that as well is like how the relationship between Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. That's a huge part of how this all could shake out and work for this team. And shout out to Jeff Hughes of the Bears blog when he talked about like what he's hearing in regards to Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson and their relationship. He said this: I think we're going to know a lot about the relationship between Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams in the early days of camp. Initial reports out of Hallis Hall are extremely good. The two men are sporting a noticeable rapport around the building. A rapport. I guess it's just rapport around the building. But that rapport and $5 will get you a ride on the blue line to O'Hare. If the 2025 Chicago Bears are going to be playing in the tournament come early 2026, they can't spend the entirety of the summer working on the kinks. They need to look the part, and quickly. And I do think like it does, like Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and that relationship. I've said it a lot when Caleb came out and talked about how, Ben uses choice words, how he has lunch with Ben Johnson, all the good feel shit, right? And he said that it's like good. That's what you want to see from these guys. And the thing that I said before too is that it's great to have that through OTAs. It's great to have that through minicamp, but I need to see what that relationship really is like when you go through some adversity. I need to see what that relationship is like when you lost 2 out of 3 games and you're trying to figure it and correct it. I need to see what that relationship looks like when Caleb Williams has a bad game, because a bad game is going to come, and Ben Johnson actually coaches him hard. And then how does Caleb Williams deal with that, right? That's what I want to see. A lot of that is going to be tell us about the makeup of this team and the makeup of Caleb Williams, because Ben Johnson can't leave the kid gloves on, and he said as much. You cannot have the kid gloves on with Caleb. If you want this kid to be great, you have to coach him like you want him to be great. And Ben Johnson's one of those coaches that understands the importance of the relationship between your head coach and your quarterback. He's not Matt Eberflus. Nick Saban ain't going to have to come in here and tell Ben Johnson of why it's important to have a good relationship with your quarterback. That's not what's going to happen here. Ben Johnson understands that. And how Caleb responds to that is what's going to be the special sauce of this team. It can be. So, we've had times, like when you look at it, of course, Shane Waldron, a passive-ass person, and that did not work for this team. Maybe it could work for some other teams where you have a stronger-minded head coach, but it didn't work for this team. Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus, from all reports that we've heard, refused to step in and try to form any relationship. Thomas Brown brought a little bit of that. Like, he did bring it, looks like, some edge to the situation, but overall, like, it was too little too late. And he was the guy that, if he was able to stay as the offensive coordinator and, didn't have to switch duties as head coach, maybe that would have fixed itself. But, he's tried to set a tone. It was too little too late. Ben Johnson came in and immediately set the tone of not just Caleb Williams, what he expected from this team, right? We heard from the first OTA, Ben Johnson stopping practice and yelling and cursing at people. There's some pansies out there that are like, why are you cursing at people? These are grown men. No, fuck that. Like, I'm here to tell you, no, fuck that. No, yell at these people. Like, yell at them. Now, do it respectively, and the praise has to equal the criticism when they do something well. And I think that Ben Johnson, from what we've heard from this coaching staff, that they are balancing that pretty damn well. But no, we're not here to put on no kid gloves to nobody. I'm sorry. We had the preschool babysitter and Matt Eberflus. We need a goddamn coach. We need a leader of men. Everybody in that locker room, when talking about what they wanted the new head coach to be, is a leader of men. So now you can't shy away when you get that leader that's telling you to do what the fuck you need to do. Right? To be frank, again, I know some people are going to turn out the program because they don't like hearing cursing in their podcast. Hey, listen, just like they curse on the football field, we talking real here. So if you can't hear that, put your hands over your ears or keep it pushing. So you need that, and I think that part is important, to have a coach that has just as much edge as you want to see on the football field. And Ben Johnson reportedly has a lot of that edge. So continue hearing that the relationship between Ben and Caleb is good, because that's what a team is going to be built off of. But the Bears just got to keep it chugging, man, and we'll see what the Bears can do and if this thing really does continue. But with that said, and talking about how there's been more positive coverage around the Chicago Bears, NFL.com and Kevin Patra there talked about the Bears and made a case for the Chicago Bears winning the NFC North. Now, I want to be clear here. I've said it before. For the Bears to win the NFC North, you're talking about at minimum 13 wins. You're talking about 8 more wins than what you got last year. That is very difficult to do. And while the Detroit Lions have taken several hits this offseason that could affect how good they are next season, listen, the Bears got a lot that they need to show and prove before I start having any talk about them winning the NFC North. But for what it's worth, I don't have to talk about it because somebody else made the reason. So now I can talk about their reasons of doing it. So Kevin Patra of NFL.com said this. Last season, the Bears disintegrated despite boasting a talented roster. Now they've imported a first-time head coach who comes from a program proven to extract every ounce of talent from its players. Ben Johnson's arrival is the number one reason the Bears could flip the script from worst to first in the NFC North. As a play caller in Detroit, Johnson had defensive petrified. His pulse on managing a game is Sean Payton-esque. As far as the head coaching upgrades go, moving from Matt Eberflus to Johnson is about as big of a boost as a team can make in one offseason. And so it's a great thing when you have a coach that you feel confident in. And I think this goes to show how important coaching is. Some people underrate how important coaching is. Like, there's some people that look at it and like, well, you got the talent, they're going to make the coach look good. And it's like, y'all really, some people who, especially who haven't played football, don't understand how disorganized even a talented team can get if the coaching doesn't have a vision and if the coaching doesn't keep that team together. Now, I'll give Matt Eberflus credit. There were times in prior seasons where he did keep the defense together. The defense, not the offense. But, that fell and that facade wore off more and more as it went on. So Ben Johnson being one of the good upgrades here, of course, you're going to feel more confident in that. He goes on to talk more about Caleb Williams, saying this: the Caleb question is another significant piece of the puzzle. While I anticipate Johnson's arrival being the best antidote for what ails the young passer, it's possible that he never becomes the franchise changer. What if Chicago's curse is real? It might take more than 9 months under Johnson to get things in gear. If Williams struggle and the offense sinks, the Bears won't have a shot to climb the NFC North ladder. So, listen, I'm always going to love when articles are written fairly. One thing that I try to do here is I talk about both sides. So when articles do that, especially for people who don't follow the Bears inside and out, it's to write about both sides of it. What could go right? What could go wrong? That's fair, right? And Caleb Williams is a reason that you definitely want to continue looking at Caleb and realize Caleb has to make a significant jump up from what he was last year. Regardless of how much you put on that on coaching or anything else, Caleb has to be better. And I don't think really many Bears fans are going to disagree with that. There are some more fanatics and stands that, think that Caleb's already perfect. He's not. Caleb has a lot of work that he needs to do. And I've talked a lot about how last season hopefully was humbling for Caleb Williams in the sense that to realize that raw talent that you have, which you do have, isn't enough to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. It isn't going to be enough to get you wins at the NFL level. You need more than just the raw talent. And now it's up for Caleb Williams to show that consistently that he can do that. And it's up to Ben Johnson, again, as they said in that article, to extract every ounce of talent from this roster. Now, the question is, what if Caleb Williams never does turn into that franchise changer? That's a great question, right? Now, I think that Caleb Williams, even showing in his rookie year, showed that, even with a lot of his flaws and the flaws of the offensive line, that he's going to be able to put up numbers. But you need a quarterback that's more than just the numbers, right? You need a leader. And so I haven't even really allowed myself to start thinking about that yet. I think I'm going to give it a couple of seasons before. Like, we got to have stability as a franchise first, and then we got to see what that goes on. But to me, Caleb Williams has already shown, already having one of the best Bears rookie seasons of all time, even though that's not a high bar to pass. But Caleb is going to have to show and prove, and Caleb is going to have to grow. Caleb is going to have to develop. Caleb is going to have to learn. And if he can do that, then great. The Bears can be off in a much better place overall in their franchise. If not, it's going to be ugly. And it's going to set the Bears back again, but we're not going to worry about that. We're not going to talk about that yet. He had a rookie season that was met with a lot of turmoil, that he definitely had rookie mistakes, which told you guys coming into last season, don't think Caleb is going to avoid having some rookie issues. He had rookie issues. Don't let the generational label that the media threw out make you think that it's not going to be there. It was going to be there. Now, Caleb, what have you learned from year 1 to year 2? And what are you going to do there? And that's a great question, and we'll see what's going to happen there. With that said, let's move on. I want to talk about I want to start going and getting the confidence level in position groups leading from now to training camp, right? I think this is a really good time to start that. And one of the places and one of the conversations that's most important to have that Bears fans are having is the defensive line. The Bears went out and added Grady Jarrett, right, which is a veteran who, was viewed as a top 5 player at his position at one time. And now, of course, with losing some, being 32 years old, being on a bit of decline and things like that, why Atlanta decided to move on from him, the Bears quickly moved in and snatched up Grady Jarrett quickly after he hit the market. And that now gives you a guy that brings some stability to your defensive line. And you're adding that now in your starting lineup to Javon Dexter. Javon Dexter, who looked like he was about to break out last season with how he started off hot coming out the gates. Between injuries, play calling, his own mistakes, the inability to grow in the run. Well, he didn't grow in the run game. All those things left it to where it was a mixed bag for Javon Dexter last season. A tale of two halves of the season, really, when it came down to him. But now we got to see what Javon Dexter looks like and how much has he grown in this year, especially in the run game. That's one area that I need Javon Dexter to take a huge step up at. I've said it before, as far as the sacks, yeah, he had the spur of those early in the season, not really any to end the season. But Javon is going to have to figure out a way to have a consistent year, whatever that is. Defensive tackles always don't have to have a huge number of sacks. But I will say this, what he showed last year showed that he has a proclivity to get to the damn quarterback. So let's see that. But the growth, I think, has to be there. And then, of course, now Andrew Billings. Having Andrew Billings there as he's going back to swing tackle. He's not starting for this team, but to have that and what he did for the Bears in the run game, how you're going to use him on clear running downs, whether that means you're sitting Grady or sitting Javon, whatever it is, that's going to be there. And then you have the young up-and-comer in Shamar Turner. Right now, Shamar is going to have to show a lot for the Chicago Bears this year. But I think you have something there. And then you have guys like Zach Pickens as well. I think he's basically out of the rotation at this point, but we'll see what happens with Zach Pickens. Then on the edge, you have Montez Sweat and Dayo Odeyingbo as your starting defensive edges there. And, the hope is that what Dayo is going to be able to bring as far as bringing somebody who can bring consistent pressure on the opposite side, and that how that is going to have to make teams think about what they do with Montez Sweat. Keep in mind, Dayo's only a couple of seasons removed from having an 8-sack season. That's what Dayo is capable of, and that was as a depth piece. Now we got to see what he can bring consistently as a defense tackle, but this was a guy that Dennis Allen recruited. And Dayo can be used on the inside or the outside, but he's going to primarily be used on the outside here because that's where the Bears need him at. And then you're looking at Daniel Hardy, Austin Booker, and what those guys can bring. The confidence level that I have in this, because there are a lot of question marks. And I think in being fair, like Grady Jarrett is a veteran that's done this for a long time, but there's a bit of a question mark around him and how much of the slide that he is going to continue right now that he's getting older. Javon is a question mark. Dayo Odeyingbo is a question mark because this is his first time going to be a full-time starter to start. And, of course, Austin Booker and Daniel Hardy. Daniel Hardy, a guy that through the preseason period was a darling for the Bears, but didn't really see much of that during the regular season, right? So there's a lot of questions over this defensive line. The one thing that I have confidence in is that this is the defensive line that Dennis Allen wanted. And that's what brings me a lot of confidence in this. But if we're talking about a confidence level, out of 10, I put my confidence level in the defensive line overall right now at probably a C+, with it easily can go up to a B+, B-, B+, once the pads are on and we're seeing some things in preseason. But right now there's a lot of things that I haven't seen the proof of concept for. So I think in fairness, I'd have to put it there, right? And we'll see what it gets to. Like it's a 6.5, 7 if we're talking about out of 10. So we'll see what happens there. But let me know what your guys' confidence level is in the defensive line heading into the season. Leave that in the comment section. It also lets me know how far you made it in the video. But thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at Chi Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.